Does Lustre have a role to play in the enterprise? Absolutely. I think there's a lot of the science applications that are being moved kind of down market, and the hardware is kind of coming up from the other side to meet in the middle, and there's a lot of need for a file system that'll give that performance and allow the users to pump out the data they need for those kind of analytics.
Certainly it does. Even more, it will come up. As I said, we come from the very high end, and now we go into the enterprise market because there is a tremendous need for it. Big data in Lustre, you might not have seen that maybe 2 or 3 years ago because it was purely high-performance computing. Now, if you see big data, that big data has to be shifted from one system to another, inside a system, in and out, and Lustre is just best for that to do it.
Does Lustre have a role to play in the enterprise? Absolutely. Those of us in high-performance computing, we tend to look at the world very simply. There's a bucket of HPC applications, and there's a bucket of all the other stuff that looks like database and Oracle and enterprise-type applications. In this bucket are applications that have a requirement to move a lot of data in general, much like HPC applications. That describes the emerging big data buzzword that we hear about. People want to take their data and move it through their compute to learn something from it. Remember, Lustre is the most efficient way we know how to move data between rotating storage and compute. And so Lustre definitely has a play for those sorts of applications, no matter where they are, whether they're HPC or whether they're in enterprise installations.
Does Lustre have a role to play in the enterprise? I think absolutely today it does. If you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have said, science project, right? Because we're really scaling up the infrastructure and spend a lot of time working on scale. Well, in the past 5 years, we've been increasingly had our eye on stability, right, and manageability of the infrastructure, which is critically important as we move to the enterprise. Now the enterprise is being confronted with large-scale data challenges that can't be met by many of the traditional file system offerings, be it NFS or other technologies. Lustre is well positioned now that we've put our resources behind stabilization, maintainability, and the product is becoming extremely mature. Why is hierarchical storage management such a critical component of a Lustre file system deployment? It depends on the site, but for many sites, they want to be able to use low-cost, low-performance media for storing vast oceans of data and have the ability to transparently interact with that low-performance storage through their traditional high-performance infrastructure. So you can easily stage data sets in and out of low-performance, low-cost storage, but still get the high bandwidth that's available in your primary storage environment. A critical feature that CEA rose to the challenge of developing. In fact, probably one of the largest contributions from the community to date, and we look forward to that being in the latest Lustre release, Lustre 2.5.
In the enterprise space, I think that Lustre can provide the same scalability and speed that it's been providing the research community for years. I started with Lustre 10 years ago. I anticipate that 10 years from now we're going to see Lustre all over the enterprise space.
What Lustre allows us to do is transfer data in parallel at very high rates of speed. And that's what's required to move the data off a system like Sequoia, which has a very large memory. You want to be able to offload that data as quickly as possible. And we've seen peaks as high as 850 gigabytes per second.